Hi, welcome to Snap Judgment Photography, the home of photographic judges training. My name is Gary Smith, and I've been a practicing judge for many years. I've seen trends come and I've seen trends go. But over the last 18 months or so, I've been noticing a trend in photography that many images are becoming almost clones of each other, with a lack of creativity. Now, it got me thinking, what is causing this lack of creativity, this cloning of the images? Is it the fact that we are a very visual society where everyone carries a camera, whether it be a dedicated camera or a mobile phone, and we seem to take a lot of images? Here are a couple of graphs that I came across. And you see the graph on the left indicates that in 2023 we took approximately 1.7 trillion images. In 2024 they're estimating that it will be about 1.93 trillion images. And if you look at the graph on the right, we see that at the end of 2023 we had something like about 15.5 trillion images available to us on the internet. Now, this is an enormous amount of imagery. So I've got to ask, is it this that's causing a lack of creative endeavour from photographers? Or is it competitions? We have a lot of competitions now, both international and national competitions, happening every week of the year. And many of these competitions have limited categories. And they're usually limited to open monochrome, open colour, people, and travel. With the occasional competition getting rid of travel and throwing in scapes, not even differentiating between landscape, cityscape, and seascape, just scapes. Or is it organisations such as APS and PSA and FIAP that offer photographic awards? And these awards are based not on quantitative methods, but on quantitative methods. How many acceptances you've got in a competition, or how many awards you've got, and that sort of thing. Is it this that's causing it? Or is it our cameras? With the amount of artificial intelligence in our cameras, we see that no longer do photographers need to make an effort with their photography. And no, I'm not talking about carrying a heavy camera long distances to a photo shoot site. I'm talking about the effort we need to get in and understand our photography and make time for our photography. No longer do we need to think about each and every shot. In the days of film, we only had maximum of 36 photos. Yes, we could have carried other rolls of film, but that required a fairly extensive changing method. So we only had 36 images to play with. We've got cameras nowadays that will blow that away in 1 to 2 seconds. The artificial intelligence in cameras now, you've got subject recognition, face tracking, eye tracking, motion tracking. You've got cameras that will use artificial intelligence when it's setting aperture or shutter speed, or if you're doing in-camera HDR using artificial intelligence. If we set a camera to full program mode or semi-program mode, we don't need to think about the settings we need to get the correct exposure. Autofocus, is it making us lazy? Is this what's causing us to not explore our creativity? I think as a photographic society, I think we've forgotten Picasso's words to learn the rules like a pro so we can break them like an artist. I'm also wondering, do judges play a role in this? Are we as judges putting boundaries and limitations on photographers and creative artists? And are you, as an artist and photographer, not only accepting those boundaries, but reinforcing them by only creating images that you think judges or that judges think they want to see? And has the pursuit of competition awards superseded the desire for creativity? If you think back into photographic history, the first great movement in photography was called pictorialism. It lasted for about 80 years, from around 1860 to around the Second World War. And it included many, many great photographers. And these photographers, they would deliberately blur and soften their images to create an almost impressionistic, painterly type effect. So we had some really great photographers back then, and here's a few. Edward Steichen created some absolutely stunning images, but they're all soft focus, they're not pin sharp. We then had photographers such as Alfred Stieglitz, created some absolutely beautiful, beautiful images. Alfred Stieglitz was also quoted as saying, "Atmosphere is the medium through which we see all things, in order, therefore, to see them in their true value on a photograph, as we do in nature. Atmosphere must be there. Atmosphere softens all lines. It graduates the transition from light to shade. It is essential to the reproduction of the sense of distance. That dimness of outline which is characteristic for distant objects is due to atmosphere. Now, what atmosphere is to nature, tone is to a picture." And I think oftentimes we as judges may have forgotten this. Or then we have Henri Cartier-Bresson, who was very famous for his quote on the decisive moment, also said that sharpness is a bourgeois concept. But we mustn't forget Australian photographers. Ive Cotton, she created some absolutely iconic images that are still stunning images today. Or we have others like Helen Casno, very famous for his Casno tree in the Flinders Ranges. He created some really stunning, almost painterly images. But what of today? We still have photographers today, such as American Rocky Schenck and Joyce Tennyson, or Australian Len Metcalf. We have these photographers, but sadly these photographers don't tend to put their images into competitions because they realise that judges simply don't like them. So should we be, as judges, only looking for sharp images? Do we have the right to have such a narrow focus, or should we be expanding our focus? So I thought I would test this. So I created a couple of images, and here are the images. The one on the left I deliberately created with a very, very soft, almost dreamlike feel to it. The one on the right was a much more aggressive defocusing of the image to give you a sense of being in the storm. Now I entered these into competitions where it was judged by judges many months apart, and the judges were giving feedback to the photographers. Sadly, the judges were of the same mind. I couldn't see anything sharp in this image. and simply rejected it and did not critique the image anymore. Is this what we want from our judges? I ask you, is it what we want? There is also another image. Here's another image. Judge took one look at it and said, you need to straighten the horizon, and then refused to even comment on the image anymore. That image was taken up in the high country. There is no large body of water, so you are going to get slanted horizons. If the judge had have taken a moment longer to look at the image and noted the handrails on the fire tower, he would have seen that they are perfectly horizontal. If I had straightened that horizon, the fire tower not only would have had a 15-degree lean on it, but the person walking back across the walkway would have been trying to look as if they're falling into the abyss. Again, is this narrow, biased attitude what we want from our judges? Is it what you, judges, want from yourselves? So how would judges that use this, and this, by the way, is a negativity bias, which will be discussed in a later video, is this what we want? And how would these judges handle photographers like Gary Winogrand, that was very famous for tilting his horizons, as you can see in these series of photographs? In this image, he's tilted it so that the person receiving some money is really leaning in to the person giving the money. This was done deliberately. Or how would these judges handle people like Andre Kurtz, also famous for tilting horizons? So we need to ask ourselves, is this what we want our judges to be? Very narrow in their outlook, very narrow in their bias, with the comments being the same almost for every image. I've seen judges that will comment on every image, and every image can be improved by cropping. Now, they may be right, but is this what we want from our judges? Should the judges be looking further afield, not only looking at the technical details, but also looking at the creative ideas behind our images? Is this what we want from our judges? As a photographer, do I want a judge saying the same thing about every image within a camera club? Or do I want some fresh ideas, fresh inspiration? When we think about it, we need to understand this. And you see this in magazines as well. When magazine articles talk about editing your images, they edit it in all the same way, with the same thought behind them. And I think not only did we forget Picasso's words, I think we've also forgotten Ansel Adams's words, that photography is more than a medium for factual communication. It is a creative art. And I think many of our judges have forgotten that it is a creative art, and that we need to look as judges further afield and look at what we as judges, what impact we're giving or creating within the camera club environment. People just starting out. Is this what we want to do for the camera club movement? Is this what we want to do for ourselves? So just think about how narrow your bias might be, what biases you have, and how you can overcome them. It will make you not only a better judge, but also a better photographer. Now, if you've got any value out of this video, please hit the subscribe button. That will help the algorithm in YouTube. And until next time, keep snapping.